Okay. All right.
Look at that thing when I talk.
You can feel free to look wherever you want. That's fine. No problem. Okay. Today is
21st.
May 21st, 2004. We're talking to Webby Flanagan. You're 79?
I'm 80 now.
80.
I'll be 81 in October 7th this year. I was born in 1923.
1923. Where were you born?
Crystal City, Texas.
Crystal City, Texas. And then did you grow up there?
Grew up there through high school. And 1 year after, and that's when the war started, I joined the Marine Corps.
How old were you when you first started to become aware of what was going on over there? Like, when did it start with understanding what was going on in Europe first, or
No,
what
we
was the?
We didn't pay any attention to that. On these farms, I was out the ranch most of the time. We knew there was something going on, but we knew there was a war with Hitler and with Britain and everything else and so forth. But we didn't pay much attention to it.
But you mentioned that you'd seen a film or something like that of somebody that got you thinking.
After we got into the war, I didn't go into It was December the 7th. 41 was Pearl Harbor, but they had a draft, and a lot of my older friends had already been drafted into the service, so we were getting aware of it by then, before the war. And when Pearl Harbor happened, of course, and that was I didn't go in. It was May the 4th.
42.
42. And
what made you exactly decide to
Marine Corps
to enlist as opposed to allow yourself to get drafted?
Well, we went to San Antonio to join the Air Force. Everybody wanted to be a pilot, of course. We took a test and everything. No physical, just a test. And we were all high school graduates, but not college. I was only 19 then. And they said, well, not right now, but we'll keep in touch or something. Mm-hmm. And then we went to see a picture show about the Marine Corps with John Payne or whoever he was a star back then. Mm-hmm. We saw that and it revved us up. 3 of us out of the 4 ran over and signed up for the Marine Corps. They let us go home, but we had to be back in 20 days or something, report in. And the other boy stayed out, and he got in there. They called us all right after about 6 weeks. Well, they called us all. I was in boot camp when I got a letter to report to and I took it to my sergeant, and I said, I need to go to get in the Air Corps, and he said, not now. And when we went over and signed up, only funny thing I remember is I went up and they had all these sergeants and everything sign everybody up. And they'd ask you, do you want to be a reserve or a regular? I said, well, what's the difference? And he said, well, regular gets to go to the front of the line, and he gets to go to chow first. When they get through eating, the reserve will eat then, so forth and so on. I said, well, hell, give me regular then. It cost me about 6 months after the war. I'd been out 6 months earlier.
Well, now where did you go to basic training? Where'd you go train?
I went to San Diego. I forget the name of it, but it's in San Diego.
Isn't there just 2 places where the Marines go?
Yes, one's in
is it Parris Island?
In Parris Island in North Carolina, I believe, or South Carolina, North Carolina, and the other place is in San Diego. I went to San Diego.
Is there a difference between the 2, or it's just
no? It's the same training. I'm sure there's a difference. It's who you get as a sergeant is what makes a difference. There's a lot of difference right in the same camp. There's a lot of difference. You get a bad sergeant and a good sergeant. Yeah. They're all bad, but I mean, you get a better sergeant.
Well, now, did they train you at that time? Like, did you know like you'd eventually end up in the Pacific, or did you know where you were going to end?
No, they didn't talk. We didn't even talk about that. We were too busy. They kept us busy from the day when we woke up to night. Yeah. We had to do all kinds of things. You had to scrub. You get down on your knees and scrub the floor in your barracks to keep it clean and everything. Yeah. Because they're liable to go in there and just have a bunch of fried eggs on it. plate, you know, big platter, and in the morning throw them down on the thing. You had to get down and eat them off the floor. So they said keep your floor clean, and a lot of little things like that they'd have, you know. And there was a lot of marching, getting in tune with making marches and maneuvers and stuff like that. Not really any training about any technical fighting or anything like
Nothing
that
specific.
at all.
Yeah.
And then we had, of course, we had a week of training how to shoot a rifle. And we had the 03s then. We didn't get, we got issued Marines later, but right then it was all 03. And
This is the rifle you had?
yeah, rifle. They taught us how to take, we had to learn how to take them apart and put them back in the dark. First in the light, and then in the dark, and also the 45. We shot both of those. And then we had to go shoot. We didn't have to do that with a 50 caliber machine gun, but we had to at least go with that in each of us. We learned how to shoot one round out of a 50 caliber. You can do it with a trigger, of course, certain way, stuff like that.
That 03 you had, was it a...
No bolt action. The 03 is no bolt action. Real good bolt action. Very accurate rifle. And the Garan's not as accurate, but it's, of course, it's got 8 rounds in it. You can fire real fast. Semi-automatic.
Okay.
Now they have they had that there, and we all got to look at it and everything. We didn't get to fire it or anything, but they have an automatic rifle with each platoon. And it's a 30 caliber machine gun, what it is, but they call it a rifle because it has a clip in it, you know. It shoots about 30 rounds, I think, something like that.
Now, but when you're training with the men that you're training with, do you know, like, was the design for you to train with those men and be with them throughout, or would
No. After boot camp, we didn't know anything going through boot camp. You just didn't have, I'm telling you, you didn't have time to do anything but what they were training you, right, at that specific day, what you were learning that day. And, you know, some funny stories, really. To me, they're funny. I guess they're not funny to some people, but we had one guy that was really you ever see that picture of Who Me? You know, well, he was like that guy, and he was dumb. He really wasn't all there. And he didn't pass, couldn't he couldn't hit the target at all with that rifle. Never did learn to hit the rifle, but no sergeant's gonna make everybody a Marine. It doesn't make any difference. He's gonna be up in the front line firing it anyway.
Yeah.
So he got out, and the first time they had him on guard duty, some drunk sergeant came along, and he hollered, "Halt, halt," you know, and he didn't halt, and he fired, and he hit him right square between the eyes. Killed him dead or hell. And they took the boy in and gave him a court-martial where nobody could try him again or anything, and just discharged him. Didn't hold him, can't, because the sergeant was drunk, didn't stop.
Oh my gosh.
But they killed him, he killed him. We used to have, they talk about unloaded rifles, we never did have unloaded rifles, you know, at least when we standing guard.
Yeah.
There's a lot of funny stories in there. To me, that's all I remember, the funny parts of things.
Yeah.
And,
well, would a guy like that wasn't getting it and wasn't hitting his target and stuff like that, would the rest of you all have to kind of pay for his
no.
falling behind, or
No, you were not behind. He just got to fire so many times at target, and he got a score.
Yeah.
There wasn't any repeats on him.
Yeah.
He just didn't. Just shows that a man that can't hit anything can hit something he wants.
Yeah, I guess he was accurate at that time.
We had a guy during thing, and he had a kidney. You could see it swollen up. It's a big bulge in where his kidney was on one side, and he wanted to get out, you know, because he would urinate in the bed. So they signed us different. The people out of the squad had to I think it's 15 minutes or 30 minutes. We had to wake him up, march him, make him go to the head, which was outside the building, and make him stand there till he urinated and then go back in bed. And they kept doing him that way for a week or two. He couldn't. During the day he was falling asleep standing up. And finally they figured he wasn't, putting on or something. They discharged him.
Oh,
he
gosh.
went back to San Antonio. See, most of us were all from Texas in a squad because we came up there in one train load, and we stayed together during that. And so we was all from Texas.
Well, at this time, like, you weren't like married or anything like that?
No.
Okay. And then where did you go from, like, what happened between basic training and then eventually?
Well, as soon as basic training over, they went in, we all chose something. I chose the Air Force if I could get in it, and they'd given us an intelligence test, I guess, and I passed it. So they sent me to Norman, Oklahoma, to the college there, Oklahoma University. And we spent, I guess, 6 weeks or maybe 12 weeks or whatever it was. And we learned to take airplane apart and put it back together and everything about an airplane that they could teach us in that length of time. All the basics.
All kinds of airplanes, or?
Well, we had the fighter airplanes, so I don't know what they had. Others, I'm sure. Engines were all alike.
Okay.
They were rotaries, and that's what we took them apart. So, but we knew all that, and then they sent us to these squadrons, and I went back out to San Diego with a VMF 215, which I stayed with throughout till I came back to the United States after my combat duty. And they'd send us up. We went up with VMF 15 and those pilots, and from San Diego we went to Midway. We went to Hawaii for about 3 weeks, but then from Hawaii to Midway, Midway was the first time and our planes had been shipped. Now when I went to squadron, we were at, I forget the name of it, it was a Marine base out at Santa Barbara. And we were at Santa Barbara there for, I guess, 2 or 3 months. And the pilots were training, and we were working on the planes and everything like that. Then we packed up, and it took us about 2 weeks to put big boxes and put our whole squadron right in boxes. And the planes, I don't know, they took them somewhere and shipped them. And we got the same planes back that we had there, back when we got, and we had the new F-4Us. We started out with a small Grumman, I forget what it was, for the Bearcat, I guess. And we went to, we didn't have them very long. We got the F-4U. Of course, they trained to start with the regular trainers. They Texans, they called them. Everybody called them. Army had them, Marines had them. They were just a two-place thing that they just trained with, flying in formation and doing it. And the pilots were getting trained all the time, and we were learning everything while we were on the ground. But they gave us that 4 years before we left. They did some flying there, and then we didn't get those back until we got to Midway. And at Midway, we got those back, and we stayed there 3, 4, 5 months training. They went on all kinds of flights and this, and they'd shoot. And we had a major. He was a principal of a high school, when he got in the Marine Corps. But he did his training and flying and everything then. And he was a born ace, they dragged these targets behind. They were just a big screen. And then we would paint the bullets, the 50 caliber bullets, they'd be painted with paint. Well, when they shot it up in the air, and it would be drugged by one of the planes, and they'd come in and shoot sideways, which is a hard way to shoot, because you couldn't shoot behind, you might hit the plane, see? And from up and under and sideways and everywhere like that. But you could tell who was hitting because the color when they got this thing down, they would count, and you'd be surprised if not many would count. Well, that's the first story they started making colors for maybe 5 each, something like that. And this color, whatever this major was in, they'd win. That team would win. And finally, they just matched him against the whole squadron, and he beat the squadron. he had more. He was just a natural born pilot.
Yeah. And
unfortunately, of course, he got to be a leader of not the head of the squadron. We had a colonel head of the squadron.
Mm-hmm.
But I think he was a major by then. But he went into one of the islands, a big island over there. I don't remember these things, but it's well known. It's one of the last ones. They didn't even try to take it. They left it and went around it and went on down the Pacific and let it starve to death, I guess. Mm. But they had orders. All of them had orders when they were strafing all their ships around there. The Japs by that time wouldn't come up to fight. I mean, to be an ace over there was catching airplanes up in the air, Japanese airplanes in the air. Mm-hmm. You're just lucky if you could get something, be an ace.
Yeah.
And he'd already shot several down. He may have already been an ace by then, but they told him, whatever you do, don't turn over that island in the bay. And I don't know why. He pulled off from his squadron and shot across there, and they shot him down. He went way into the jungle, and all the people there loved him so much they got a boatload of people up, the officers did, and went and found him out in the jungle and got his body back. And that was enemy territory, because we didn't have any on that island. There was nothing but Japanese on that island. They went and got his body back.
So he was shot down and killed right then.
He was dead. They knew he was dead, and pieces of him, I guess, whatever they got. But they got him back and sent him home.
Oh man!
But he was a exec of I believe a squadron. But
and you were okay. How long were you at Midway?
I was Midway. I'd say 3 to 4, maybe 3 to 6 months. And, it's hard for me to remember back. But we were on what they call Sand Island. They had Sand Island and Eastern Island. Eastern Island was where. But anyway, we never did go to the other island. And that place is completely surrounded by a barrier reef.
Right.
Yeah, and you can swim in. They let us swim inside it. Mm-hmm. And we'd swim. So I read a lot in those nights. Yeah. And I'll never forget that he was. We all knew he was studious and real educated. That guy that everybody liked so much. Mm-hmm. I was sitting down there reading a book, a very old thick book and everything, about halfway through it. And he said, "Son, what are you reading?" I said, "Decline and Fall of the Roman Empire." He said, "Oh," and went on.
Well, so then where did you go from Midway?
I went Midway. We went to Espiritu Santos, a big island. It's a French island. And it's a great big island. And we stayed there another 3 to 6 months. Again, I came. Mm-hmm. And waited for orders to go. And our squadron shot down one Japanese flying boat from there. They did patrols out all the time. And they called it a Japanese flying boat. And I forget who one of the pilots shot it down. Mm-hmm. Everybody's all excited. Got one. And then we were shipped to Guadalcanal, which had been, they still had Japs on it and everything, and still a little sporadic fighting on it, but for all purposes, as far as we was concerned, it was, they had the island. Right. And they were still, of course, bombing us and raiding us and stuff like that. And they had shot Tojo's son down there. Tojo was the head of the Japanese. You know, emperor's head of everything, but
Right.
he was he controlled the Japanese government when they went to war. He was a war lord, you know.
Yeah.
Soldier, and his son got shot down there.
Mm.
And they talk about all this about how they take, you know, it tickles me every time. I'll never forget Carter. President Carter got on the TV, and he was crying, actually crying, and telling the people how terrible it was, how they were treating the Marine bodies when they got Iran, when they had the hostages. And they remember when they had that, and they had 8 Marines killed, and they left the bodies.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't have to. They didn't find it 3 weeks after they left. But they didn't find where it had even been for 3 weeks. But anyway, they got them. They drug them through the street again, you know, like, you know.
Yeah.
And he was up there saying how disrespectful and what barbarians they were to drag those bodies around.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I can always refer back to when I got off that boat. We got off, the first thing we saw there was a little grave and a cross and a sign. And it said, and in front of it was a pretty good sized funnel and with a hose on it, and it ran down into the ground. And it said, all good Marines piss in Tojo's son's mouth. They'd taken him and buried him there and put a funnel in his mouth, and you pissed in the... I didn't piss in it for 10 minutes, so hell, it was half full anyway. And but I mean, I just thought of that when I see these politicians, our politicians jump up and say, these people doing that and these people doing that.
Yeah.
And we didn't take, Marines didn't take prisoners.
Really?
No. At one time, I read about it now, but I think Lindbergh was there. He wrote about it too. That's where I read one of his stories he wrote after the war. But they wanted to surrender. And the Marines told them, you're not surrendering, get back there and fight like a man, you know. And of course, they were outnumbered 1,000 to 1 by then.
Yeah.
They killed them all.
Was that like a command y'all were given to never take prisoners, or did it just kind of?
No. They always say they would teach you if you're captured, you just don't have to give anything but your name and number. Mm-hmm. Well, I knew better than that. I've been around Texas Rangers enough to know that you just don't give your name and number to anybody. But they taught us all that, and then they taught us that we're supposed to treat them humanely. We're supposed to take a prisoner, pay all take a prisoner. But then you're going into, I've heard this now, because it offloaded people at different times, offload these people going in. They were ones that were fighting. We weren't going in. We don't go in until maybe 3 or 4 days after they're there, you know. And they'd tell them, there may be some people surrendering, try to surrender now, but I want to tell you, everybody that takes a prisoner's got to share his lunch with you. I mean, he's got to split his food right with that prisoner. We haven't got extra food to take away from anybody else to give them.
Yeah.
And they'd tell you that. So what are they telling
Yeah.
you? They tell it in a...
Indirect.
And then the sergeants tell you, you can't take them. I've talked to people in the Army and in Europe, and one boy he said the sad part about the war to him was, he had to kill an old man that had tried to surrender to him. But they were on a patrol going out into the enemy territory. What could they do with an old man?
Yeah.
You couldn't take him with him. You can't leave him behind.
Yeah.
Because he's behind you. Run into a thing and they'd hunt you down.
Yeah. So
you had to kill him. Just the situation. And he said he'd never forget it. And he'd kill brother, killing somebody in a fight's one thing, and shooting them down is something else in most people's mind.
Yeah.
I suppose some people it makes no difference.
Yeah.
And there's been times that the Japanese would try to surrender there every once in a while, especially on Bougainville, and well, first from after we left Midway, I went to what the hell's the name of that damn place? It's next to Kolomangaras, right across from it. We never had Kolomangaras. They would actually fire cannons over on us at this other place. There was a army unit there at that time. Now the Marines got relieved and went back after so long there. They would get to go back to the United States or at least to Australia, before they came back. And this poor army thing had been there ever since the war started. They were right there. Some of Mac offers that got them out.
Mm.
They were still there. They'd been there. They'd been overseas 2.5 years.
Mm.
And we were only into the war maybe 6 months to a year, 9 months or something.
Yeah.
But their morale was down, I'm telling you. But they every once in one Japanese would try to surrender, and it was funny because everybody would be watching him come up, and I don't know why, but they never made it because somebody in the crowd would kill him. It'd be just one, pretty soon some rifle would fire.
Did you ever see any of that?
Oh yeah. Well, see, they let us go up to the line, so we only on not Guadalcanal or not the next one. We didn't go up the lines. We won't go up there where those army people were. But Bougainville, why, we just had a strip about 14 miles long and about 3 or 4 miles deep, and then we had a strip on it, and the rest of the island was you just go around it, and those Japs, a lot of them were starving. They would methodically go out when they tried to grow a crop or something, while they'd go out and burn it, with fire, napalm or whatever it took. So they were starving every once in a while, wanted to try to surrender. At first, sometimes they would have one go inside. They'd actually go inside and climb up a tree at night and snipe, try to kill somebody. They wouldn't. If you didn't have any brass on, well, you're pretty safe. They were just looking for officers,
Yeah.
They'd stay up there, try to kill an officer, but that didn't happen. I never did one, but they took razor blades, double-sided razor blades, and started putting them in the palm trees.
Oh.
Going up, see.
Yeah.
So when they got trying to climb those palm trees,
Yeah.
but all those people over there in Japs too could climb those. They can walk up those just like a monkey, just go right straight up. Mexicans can do that palm tree down in Mexico. If you want one of those coconuts to eat, they'll go right up there and get it. I'll climb up to the top and throw it down. Come on.
String up there.
Huh?
Just string their way up there.
Yeah, they just put their feet on the floor and they bend over and get it by the hands and they just walk up, crawl up it. You say.
Yeah.
And,
well, you'd mentioned not wanting to go up where the army men were, what army guys were.
Well, we just
did you just not mix with those guys?
Yeah, there was never the same feeling you had with another Marine than you had.
Yeah.
We were taught we didn't like Coast Guard, we didn't like Navy, in fact.
Yeah.
Swab jockeys.
Swab jockeys.
That's what we call the Navy. We call the Coast Guard Pelican bellies. I don't know where these names came from. And Army, I forget what they call them. Dog face, I think, or something. I think maybe might be what it was, but we didn't. You just never did. In the first place, their morale was so bad, you'd be afraid that you'd get hurt up there. Not from them, but just because afraid that if the Japanese came in, well, then you'd be there by yourself. You had that feeling, you know. And so,
Yeah.
now we lost some people that went up hunting souvenirs. It was hot. People in the back, I guess the ones fighting didn't have time to get souvenirs, but the guys in the back, and some of them would get, one guy got his leg, knee, from the ankle, foot blown off. He stepped on a mine. But there were a lot of booby traps up there, but they got pretty well. They'd take something and hook them and move them around and shake them.
Yeah.
But they wanted a flag. All Japanese, they nearly had a flag on. They'd carry a flag up here on their breast.
Mm-hmm.
Small cloth, green usually and everything. Then they had battle flags, big ones, they had big work, but they were all, everybody wanted one to take home. And a lot of people bought them. The military, the ones that did fighting, they'd have them, you know. And everybody'd buy them to send home or take home, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And some would get those big long swords, and others would get this and that.
Mm-hmm.
I never did care about it.
Where did you go after Guadalcanal?
We went to Munda was the name of it.
No.
That's all we knew. I knew, you know, I don't want it. New Georges. It was New Georges. But Munda was what we called. I went to Munda. That's where Coleman and Garrett's right across, and they would shell us. And we had we all dug up. They had us dig. We had tents, and we'd sleep on bunks inside. And all the planes were in bunkers, you know. And so, and they would bomb us on every time it was a full moon. You're gonna get bombed.
What are they? Are they coming in like in fighter planes and dropping bombs, or are these
no,
like
they'd
big?
be regular Japanese bombers. They'd come over and up high and they'd drop the bombs just in the area
Yeah.
where we were, and they'd shake the ground. You know, when they hit the ground,
They always did this at night.
yeah, always at night. They didn't come out in the daytime. At one place they did, I forget that. They came in the afternoon, but somehow they got in. But in the daytime, we had radar, and we also had those people. We didn't know how they, but some of it was because of people. They had some Australians up in the mountains in these Japanese-held islands, and they could watch the ships come, the Japanese ships. They'd call airplanes and flight, and we'd get ahead of time, and we got our fighters up while they had a duck shoot. They'd just shoot all of them down. We just had such better airplanes.
When they would come in and start bombing at night like that, would you guys go get in their fighters and take off, or what was the
No,
reaction?
not at night. No, everybody when the thing whistle blew, you know, and siren blew,
Mm-hmm.
and they had 1 for something, and 2 for something, and 3 for something, and 4 didn't have a 4. 3 had 3 of them. And 1 was for bombing, and 1 was for shelling, and 1 was for an invasion, you know. Really. You had to get up, and we had a place we were supposed to go and meet and take a certain place to defend ourselves if they were having a landing, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So, I'll never forget, and everybody would go to we had a sergeant, what we call a rocker sergeant. All our sergeants, master sergeants, were technical. At that time there'd be 3 inverted V's, you know, and below that there'd be a straight stripe across.
Mm-hmm.
But the sergeant major, he had 3 rockers underneath, and everybody hated him, of course, you know. We didn't get to do what we wanted to do, so we had to hate somebody. Everybody hated him.
Mm.
He wouldn't get up at night. He wouldn't leave his bed at night.
So even during a raid?
No, when it raided, he wouldn't. He just slept through it. He was from Texas, I think San Angelo. I saw him once after he'd become a lawyer too, or CPA, but he was pretty high up in the IRS when I saw him. I just seen him walk across the street one time, and And I went over and talked to him. He wasn't friendly at all, you know, because he was working for IRS.
Yeah.
But he wouldn't get up and go over there. I guess because there were several people talking about, they said, hell, we just take a live bomb over there and bury it where he would be going in. And we'd fire it off, have some way to fire it off. That's all talk, you know.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Well, but okay, so when they would be bombing, if you didn't have fighters take off, what did you have
Nothing.
like?
We just went and got in a hole.
You couldn't do anything like you couldn't put spotlights up and start trying to shoot them or anything. I mean.
They had. That was not us though. We were in mechanics and taking care of the airplane.
Yeah.
No, they had regular pits around the whole place, and they'd be firing. They had regular artillery. They'd fire anti-aircraft, and then they had at some places I forget. I believe Munda they had. One of the islands they had a night fighter, and they'd send him up, and then the firing stopped. You knew he was hunting. They'd try to get the plane. When they got the plane in the thing, they'd hold it on him, where he was back in the dark, and he'd try to come in and shoot him down. Well, they ever got one island.
Yeah.
Never. So, but one night, to head off the story, I'll tell you something. We all got gas masks, and they're a pain in the ass. They're always in the way, you know, and everything. So I guess everybody nearly took them out, threw the damn gas mask away. And that would be, they'd put their goodies in there, like, you know, extra canteen or this or that or whatever. Something to eat or something. They'd carry it around when they had to go on a march or something. And have that or hanging around. It'd be just another bag that you had to put stuff in. So one night, of course, everybody knew that. Nobody had it. Almost nobody. Few had a few people are just going to go by the rules, whatever the rule is. So one night that damn fire thing went off, and it went 1, 2, 3, and it blew again on the 4. And after that fourth one blew, there was a dead. Usually there's a little bit of talk after the whistles go. They got yelling at each other, and then they go over and get them bumped. We just usually got bombing. I think that was 3 or something. When 4 went off, it was quiet. I mean, it was about half. I thought a minute, but it's probably a few seconds. Then some of your voice came out of the door and said, "What's 4?" And I couldn't resist. I said, "Yes, there was a goddamn tents falling down there. Everybody was looking for those guys, and the ones that had a gas mask to take it away from whoever had it. And then pretty soon it all got quiet again, and everything, and the bombers had gone. They didn't even pay attention to them bombers. And so when it's all over, I said, "Who said that?" Everybody was quiet. I said, "Let's find that son of a bitch and kill him." I said, "Get him, man, get him." I said, "Let's find him." I helped them hunt him. I never have told that either.
So
I sure didn't.
That sent some panic through the.
Oh, there's a lot of stuff happened like that. It was funny. We have an officer that's not administrative officer. He's not a pilot, but he takes care of everybody. And we had a guy with big thick glasses and a funny smile and always a jokester and everything. None of the pilots really liked him anyway. And he wasn't a pilot. And you're not a pilot with pilots. You're an outsider, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I guess he thought but he went to where they stand by during the day in one area, one room. They got to stay in that room, and then when the whistle blows, they got to run to the airplane and jump in it, strap on their gear, and take off, because the airplane's got. And usually it's hot, of course, so we don't have air conditioning, and it'd be open on the around the side. And he came up there one day and stuck his head up there with a crazy look on his face and said, "Here, I got a present for you," and lobbed a grenade in the middle in there. Well, it was a grenade with a you just take the powder out of the grenade, you know.
Yeah.
It was just a joke. But they didn't think it was a joke. They were piling out that thing and they went every direction in the world. And when they got out there, they knew it was. It wasn't like me, they didn't know. So they beat the shit. I mean, they beat him terrible. They got rid of him too. They sent him off somewhere. He wasn't around anymore.
They didn't think that was too funny, huh?
They didn't think it funny at all. Of course, we all laughed about it after it was over, but they didn't laugh. Those pilots didn't laugh.
Oh my gosh.
And cause they're living with death anyway every day. And we lost more men, way more men by accident. Our exec officer was flying one day and he just peeled off when the spiral went down. He forgot to didn't check his oxygen before, or had a malfunction and didn't know he was out. You don't necessarily know you're out of oxygen.
Right.
When you run out of oxygen, you slowly fade away, you know. And but they said that he but everybody figured he was gonna get killed because he had a real beautiful wife, and he put his wife picture in his airplane.
Up on the panel?
Yeah, on the panel. And all the other pilots said, "Well, he's gonna get killed." He ain't supposed to. Well, you're going to be thinking about your wife while you're in combat up there. That's why you're going to get killed. Yeah. You ain't got time to think about women and stuff. Anyway, he spun in and he got killed. And several got killed with accident. And then they'd do so many flights or so long up, and then they'd go to Australia. And in between, we'd get another squadron, be a whole new squadron with different planes. And one trip up, one time, the Marines had the first 4 squadrons in the Pacific. 1, 2, 3, 4 were Marine, because we had the bases on the ground. We were seeing them every day. The Navy was on the ships, and they didn't see hardly any. They didn't get no fighting going, you know. And no chance of being big aces, and getting 20 was the number. If you got 20, you got to be a super ace, you know. And so one outfit we got, the name was Admiral Black. He was the admiral then, I think, or no, he was a commander. Commander Blackburn brought his squadron up there, and they had F4Us too, brand new F4Us. And another thing, the Navy didn't have the Bearcat then, so they didn't have a plane that was good as the F4U. And they'd given it to the Marine because they couldn't land it on their ships, they didn't think, and of course they got where they could later. But we got them up there, and they broke a record. They left them there, and they give them everything they wanted there. They were sent there because his daddy, this Commander Blackburn's daddy, was Admiral Blackburn. I'm sure that's the name. I just don't think I forget that name. I might have, but anyway, I think it's Blackburn. But he ran his squadron. He got up better than any of the Marine squadrons out there. And the thing I remember about that is a guy named Pillsbury. He was the heir to the Pillsbury fortune. And I said, well, he's going out someday and not come back just because he's got too much money. Because a man that's got that kind of money don't have no business out here. He shouldn't even fly a civil plane at home. Because he could keep on. Sure enough, he went out one day and didn't come back. And so I remember that. You know, you don't remember much about those damn things.
Yeah. Did you have bombers take off from where you were too, or just fighters?
No, we didn't have any squadrons there but fighters. Okay. But we'd have sometimes we'd get cripples in now. We'd have that happen a lot.
Who flew? Did Marines fly bombers too?
Yeah, well, I don't know, they didn't have, when you say bombers, they didn't have bombers. The Navy didn't have big bomber
Oh, really?
like, you know, B, what?
B-17 or
17
yeah.
or whatever they had then, I don't know. No, they didn't have those. We had torpedo bombers, you know, they could carry torpedo. And they all got killed. I don't know, that was just suicide trip. They tried to get them, but it was like kamikaze. They were all kamikaze pilots.
Yeah.
They didn't know it, I don't think. But they all got killed, you know.
Those Japanese ships would be able to pick them off pretty easy?
I don't know whether ships or whether, yeah, I guess so, because they're just flying low and you're shooting at something coming straight in. It's like shooting a steel target.
Yeah.
I guess that's what.
Yeah.
I don't know, but and maybe they had to get too damn close, or they just tried to get too close.
Yeah.
But they nearly all got, and then the dive bombers did pretty good. And of course they could dive in, they could get away, and they just light a quicker airplane. That old torpedo bomber had to carry a 2,000 pound or bigger maybe torpedo and everything. It was, I've ridden in a bunch of them. They have a tail gunner back there stage. Comes in, it looks like a guppy. You ever see guppies?
Mm-hmm.
Well, it looks like a guppy underneath. It's got a little thing like that at the
Yeah.
end where the baby falls out. Well, they got a little, I don't know what, but they used to let us ride in them, just go out and go riding.
Yeah.
And they'd go out and skim the water, you know. It was a good ride. Like going to Ferris wheel or something. Amusement park.
Well, how long did you was your time over there? Like from the time that you got to Hawaii and Midway or whatever, how long were you in the Pacific?
I forget, it was, but it wasn't, I don't believe it was a year. But we rotated. Now, Army, most of them didn't, but they rotated us pretty good. We took in several, I know, one trip now, I was Pappy Boynton's plane captain. Another guy was we had two Marine mechanics were assigned to each airplane. Me and, of course, he's my buddy, you know, we got to know because we were together. We didn't get to choose it, and we were there all the time through everybody's changes while we were together. Out in East New York. But we were both plane captains and everything. And it's funny about things happen like that. And we liked Boynton. Boynton was a likable guy. He was just another guy. He sat down with us. And of course, they issued us a beer or 2 beers a day, something like that. And of course, he was a drinker. Of course, he didn't have anything because he was sitting ready to go up. They were sitting under the plane. He stayed with the plane to go up. Something happened, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I give him my beer, and he didn't want to take it. Anything. I said, "Well, I don't drink it. I can't drink it. I made an oath I would never take a drink. I changed that later. At that time, I didn't drink it all.
Yeah.
I gave him my beer. I wouldn't drink beer anyway. I didn't ever really like beer till later again.
Right.
But I'd give him my beer, and he'd drink it. Boy, he just soused it down. He liked it. And a lot of little things. We got a new kind of sight in. It was a sight that was a little plexiglass that sat on the hood up there. And it'd have a cross in it like that. And you could move your head, and that cross would adjust, so it's still, wherever you look through it, would aim the airplane. Of course, it's fixed. They didn't move. The guns didn't move any. But your cross would be, and if you moved your head, of course, that'd move your sight. You know what I mean? But it adjusted some way that you were still, if you put that cross on that airplane, no matter where it was, that moved where it would be, and the guns would hit it. See? So they all liked that. I don't think he did any better.
Right.
He went up one time, he came back, he's kind of aggravated, you know, he got out and knew something wrong. I said, "What's the matter, Major?" He said, "Well, y'all didn't check my sight, it won't come on." I said, I didn't have a sight. Doesn't make any difference. I got one anyway. I shoot by not sight. I shoot by tracer. Anyway, I said, well, I checked it this morning, Major. It worked. Let me just a minute. I got up in there, and I just cut it on. It worked fine. He looked. And he said, you know what? I was turning the rheostat the wrong way. You know, that cuts it on the light.
Yeah.
And he laughed. Yeah, I was turning that the wrong way.
Did he make it all the way through?
Yeah, he made it through the war. Now, he got shot down over this same bay when they got to fighting. The same one that the other, well, they went in there finally and they'd bombed, Army had bombed enough from the top. And he got shot down, not in that bay, or maybe in that bay is so big, I don't know, but he got shot down and captured there. Of course, he had false papers on him. He already was under death sentence with the Japanese.
Oh, really? See,
he had fought with Colonel, what the hell? The guy that had never. Most times they wouldn't indict. If they got indicted, they'd be acquitted.
Yeah.
Guy killed, I'll never forget today. Somebody shot the big Baptist preacher, been there for years. One-armed guy. And they shot him. And they had that trial. They got a hung jury in Crystal City. Because there's so many Baptists. You're bound to get the hung jury. All he could win there. And they moved it over to Hondo, which was a convicted town. They convicted there. And he ended up, I think, at 2 to 5 years or something. But death wasn't, a lot of people died when I was little. It wasn't like, now everybody seems to live a long time. No.
Yeah.
And you get where you don't, I never did pay much attention. I knew my mother's dead when I went home one day and I saw her laying on the bed. The door was open. When walking our house, and by the way, that house is still there in Crystal.
Where is it?
In Crystal City.
But where in Crystal?
It's up, not Dimmitt Street. It's the one on the south side of the courthouse going east.
Okay.
And it goes down and then it goes up a hill. And I used to work at the theater when I was pretty well grown then. I think I was senior in high school. And I wouldn't get off work till 11 o'clock downtown, nearly shut down, dark. Didn't have street lights, And I used to start walking off. I'd walk home. I'd get by the courthouse and I'd get up there and the mortuary was right up the street, just about a block before when I passed that mortuary, I couldn't hold it any longer. I'd break and run like a scared rabbit all the way back. And, but people died all the time.
What happened to your mother?
She died of tuberculosis. And she was 32 or 35 or something like that. That's how my mother and daddy met. They both had tuberculosis. Both sent to Crystal City to recuperate. That was one of the spas that you go to try to get well because it's dry. The theory was to get dry. Should have gone to Tucson is where they should have gone.
Yeah.
But they claimed that the doctor thought that would help them. Well, my daddy died of tuberculosis, not tuberculosis, he died of and ever since I always put that down. When I make out these, they make you fill out all these legal things. I don't hide that. Most people hide stuff like that. I put them down. Daddy and Mama both had tuberculosis. And the doctors see that and they try to make me have tuberculosis. They'll get me and make me take that test, and I've never had one yet. I expect I'm completely immune, see, from being exposed to it when I was a kid like that. Yeah. And but hell, we slept in the same bed a lot of times back then. It'd get real cold at night. There'd be a crowd in that bed. One big bed full of kids and mamas and daddies. But neither one of us came down with tuberculosis.
What happened to your sister?
Well, she got crippled some way. They think it cause they got a slide and it went down and she would ride it too hard or something. And I kind of think maybe she ended up with tuberculosis of the bone and the spine instead of the legs. It usually goes to the legs, you know.
Mm-hmm.
It may have been that. I don't know, you know, because they didn't have medicine back, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I just remember all the kids slept in one room. And we just had we had a big bedroom and a little bed. Mama and Daddy in the big bedroom and a little bedroom. The big bedroom. My brother and I and Nancy slept in. And I just remember waking up and Mama was sitting over on the bed where Nancy was, crying and trying to get her to use the pot. That's what I remember. I just went on back to sleep. And in the morning she was dead, you know. Oh, she's dead. Buried her. And I'm sure I cried when everybody else cried.
Yeah.
Kid will cry when you cry around them.
Yeah.
You go to crying around a kid, they'll go cry.
Yeah.
They're supposed to, aren't they?
Learned that one. Yeah.
And I don't think I cried when my mama died. I don't even remember crying.
Hmm.
And the only time I think I cried on a couple of occasions when I heard Pavarotti sing. Pavarotti, whatever it means. Mama used to have all that kind of music. Of course, it's Crusoe back then.
Right.
But it wasn't the sound that Crusoe really had in a way, because we heard it on a gramophone out of the wax, or vinyl. It wasn't even have vinyl, it had wax of some kind of. And it would make us different sound. I've heard it both now, and it's a different sound.
Mm-hmm.
But you can recognize what it is and everything.
Mm-hmm.
I think I just cried because it's so damn pretty.
Mm-hmm.
And his voice was so good. He's not the best by any means, you know.
Yeah.
That Mexican's the best.
Domingo?
Domingo, much better.
Yeah.
Domingo can he directs even now. He can direct, he can do everything in music. But he can sing operas that Pavarotti can't sing. His voice can't handle those other operas.
Mm-hmm.
And but when he sings, he's got that goddamn bell cantato, I think they call it, something like.
Right.
But it's so goddamn perfect, and it's just perfect to hear. I used to have him. I would take tapes and make tapes when they started using them, and you could make the tapes when you could record them, and I'd have my own tape, and I'd have all these different songs. I just like certain songs. I just play them over and over, and hell with all of them. I never could sit through a goddamn these big long concerts.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I love some of them. I'll go and pull them out.
Mm-hmm.
There'll be a piece in there that I just love. I think I could hear the Toreador song from Carmen over and over again, and I just love it. But I don't love the whole opera.
All the build-up.
I don't like it, and especially these others. A lot of it I don't like. Probably because I don't study music, don't understand music.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Well, so did you keep up with a lot of guys that you served with?
No, I was going to, and we all said we would, but we didn't. Well, I've got too crowded. We were out. It was totally different. I went straight to school. I was busy, and I was drinking at the same time. I started drinking before I got out of the Marine Corps. I think I never did like liquor. I drank because it was social. It was because everybody else did, and I felt I had to.
So what made you?
Hey,
but you said you had that pledge to yourself, though. That
there was.
you mentioned you had that pledge to yourself that you weren't going to drink.
What happened to that? I had to swear on the Bible to God. It didn't mean nothing to me, but then that lasted long till I wanted to drink.
Okay.
I never did quite buy that God bit. Never did. Even when I was little,
Yeah.
it didn't seem reasonable to me.
Do you still feel that way today?
Well, of course, you ain't nothing but a dog. You're dead as a dog. That's Rover religion. Dead like Rover. Dead all over, all but his tail, and it rolled over. That's all there is. Well, there ain't nothing else. These people you think they're going to get die and have a bus ticket, transfer ticket, get in another bus and ride off to something better? Come on.
Well, don't you believe that as complex as life is and everything is in the world, that it's got to come from...
We can build almost anything we want to. How's it complex?
Just the
We're
way
making everything over like we want it. We can change human beings. We can take our DNA and make anything we want to out of them.
But therein lies
Turn them green if we want to.
Right, and to have that type of intelligence and to evolve to that point.
Well,
don't you think that it's got to...
That's explained by science how we got that. Don't you ever read Darwin?
Mm-hmm.
Well, of course, his has changed. It's improved. We know now what we thought was habitat and this, and it is, but what makes it couldn't understand these mutations and changes is explained by DNA. Every DNA, see, you can clone a person, and you won't necessarily get the same person. You'll get something that might look like it, but it's not, because all these DNA, there's billions of connections, and there's always some different connections. When those different connections hit in the right spot, the bad changes die off.
Mm-hmm.
The good changes stay. And that's how you evolve. And you're getting closer and closer to it. We understand it. There's so much we don't understand, it doesn't make any difference. And we're going to destroy, and there's so many stupid people, even the smart ones are stupid. And we're going to kill ourselves before we can get to where we could get.
Mm-hmm.
There's no doubt that we're going to be able to live forever if we want to. They know now that the cells last about 130 years. They got a clock in them.
Mm-hmm.
And in 130